I've been using Trezor wallets for almost 2.5 years now, and in this video I want to share my experience using them, give you an overview of Trezor's track record, my thoughts on their wallet models, how they compare today, but I also want to share a newly found exploit in a Trezor wallet that Ledger found that is a really interesting story that highlights a lot about these wallet companies, and I will share that towards the end. And also, before we get into the video, since you absolutely crushed the 300 like goal in the Ledger video, let's do the same thing here. 300 likes on this video, and I'll make a video about whatever video topic gets the most likes in the comments. So the comment in the top I'll make a video about if it's a topic at all. So drop your suggestions below and I'll see what ends up on top. Now, first, I thought I would give you a quick walkthrough of their different wallet models. So we have the cheapest one here, the Trezor Safe 3, that still have 2 physical buttons and a very small screen. And we need a cable to be able to connect to it. So this is solid offline storage, and you don't need to spend much to be able to use it, and you get access to everything that Trezor has to offer pretty much. The downside is that it does not really work on iPhone. And then we have the Trezor Safe 5, which is the middle option, and it adds a colored touchscreen, it adds haptic feedback, and a micro SD card slot with extra layer security if you want to use it. The core security here though is identical to the Safe 3, but the user experience is much more comfortable. It still has the same iPhone limitation though. And then lastly, we have the Safe 7, which is their top model. It has Bluetooth, so it works on both iPhone and Android wirelessly. It is dust and water resistant. It got wireless charging, and more importantly, it got a dual chip security setup. So if you want to store a significant amount and want the most verifiable security currently available in hardware wallet, the Safe 7 is the best option for that. You can find all of these wallets that I will link to below in the video description. But let me also give you some context about Trezor, the company itself. Trezor is a Czech company that has been around since 2014, and they are the original hardware wallet company. I believe the first hardware wallet that was ever made was a Trezor wallet, and a lot of the basic concepts that all other wallet companies later copied have come from them originally. So this company has a track record going back over a decade, and they have been the most consistently trustworthy name in this space for the entire time. So they have not been the biggest one, that is still Ledger, but they have been the most reliable. The reason I personally started using Trezor more seriously back in 2024 was the open source thing. Trezor is the only major hardware wallet company that has their entire code base open source. So we're talking about the firmware, the apps, the hardware design, everything. So anyone in the world can audit it, check the code, find issues and report them. So that is a different security model compared to most other wallet companies out there, where you have to trust that the manufacturer is telling you the truth about how their device works. With Trezor, we can verify it ourselves, or at least trust the thousands of security research out there that can do that. And that is the kind of transparency I think is very valuable within this space, especially when you're storing a lot of money using these products. So what has happened over the past few years? Well, quite a lot. Their security track record is clean. They have no data breaches affecting their own systems, no controversial features sneaked in through any updates or anything, and they have just been quietly doing the work, releasing new solid devices and being honest about their wallets, what they can and cannot do. They also released the Safe 7 quite recently, which I think might be one of the most secure hardware wallets that exist right now. The dual chip design, including both the standard EIL 6 Plus chip and the new Tropic 01 chip, which is a first fully open and auditable secure element chip in the world. So you can not only audit the firmware inside these devices, you can now actually audit the hardware chip itself. And that is another level of verifiability that nobody else has. A few other things Trezor does well that often get overlooked is privacy. And Trezor Suite, the program where you handle these devices, has built-in Tor support that you can enable with one click in the settings that will route your wallet connections through a privacy network, masking your IP address and improving connection privacy. Most other hardware wallet companies do not have this. And secondly, a quite important thing is that when you receive Bitcoin to your Trezor wallet, the app generates a fresh receiving address each time by default. Many other wallets just reuse the same address every time, which exposes your public key permanently to the blockchain and creates real privacy and quantum related risks down the line. So Trezor having this gives you a more privacy-friendly and future-secure approach for storing digital assets. Third, Trezor offers something called Shamir Backup, or now they call it multi-share backup. So now during setup of these devices, we can choose the traditional single-share seed phrase backup, or we can choose this multi-share backup. And that is instead of having one seed phrase that you have to keep safe, and then you can now split your backup into multiple shares and decide how many of them are needed to recover your wallet. So for example, you could create 5 shares and require any 3 of them to restore your wallet. And that gives us the option to remove the single point of failure that traditional seed phrases have, which is a great feature. Now here is something that happened quite recently that I think speaks a lot to how Trezor operates. In January 2026, they officially retired the Trezor Model 1 and Model T, their 2 oldest devices. The Model 1 was the first hardware wallet ever made, 12 years old by that point. The Model T was 7 years old. Now, if we compare this to how Ledger handled retiring the Nano S device, which I covered in my last video about Ledger, Ledger ended support quite entirely, leaving people with unsupported devices. Trezor did the opposite here. They retired the products from sale, but they committed to providing firmware updates and critical security support for the Model 1 and Model T until at least 2036. That is 10 more years of guaranteed support on devices they no longer even sell. So that is a kind of long-term commitment that builds real trust, and I very much like that. Now, I want to also be honest here, because Trezor's track record has not been 100% perfect. That is, this is not going to be the exploit that I'll mention at the end of this video. This is something that happened in early 2024, where Trezor had a data security incident through a third-party support tool they were using. So the tool got compromised and attackers used it to send phishing emails to Trezor users, and about 66,000 customer email addresses and names were exposed. Now, this was a third-party vendor issue, not a breach on Trezor's main systems. So it's similar to Ledger's data breaches, but the scale here and the seriousness is on a little bit lower level. So where do I stand on using Trezor wallets after 2.5 years of using them? Well, overall I'm very positive. They do not have the best apps, the best UI, the best coin support, but what they do have is the combination of open source transparency, verifiable security, and I would say a clean track record of their own main systems. And when it comes to hardware wallets like this is one of the most important aspects. Many of the other things or features are just convenience, and don't get me wrong, convenience can be very important in this context, but Trezor stuff, everything they have, is more than enough for the most of us. Alright, now let's get to the exploit I mentioned in the beginning. Just a few days ago, Trezor publicly announced a vulnerability in one of the chips used in the Safe 7, their most recent wallet. The vulnerability was not found by Trezor, it was found by Ledger's own security research team, Ledger Donjon. So Ledger, who's a direct competitor, did an independent audit of a chip used in the Trezor device. They found a vulnerability, and the two companies publicly worked together to disclose it. And this kind of cooperation between competitors has basically never happened before in this industry, I don't think. The way it worked was that Tropic Square, the company that makes the Tropic 01 chip used in the Safe 7, asked Ledger Donjon to audit the chip to look for vulnerabilities, and Ledger ended up finding one. The attack for this exploit uses a laser fault injection, which requires physical possession of the device. Someone needs to have it, they need to take it apart, desoldering the chip inside, opening up the chip package, and using specialized expensive laboratory equipment, plus also deep knowledge about it, to be able to do this. So this is not a remote attack, this is a professional level attack scenario, not something that will affect regular users. But more importantly, even if someone did all of that, your funds would still be safe if you have a Safe 7 and someone did that to you, because the Safe 7 has 3 different independent layers of security, and this exploit only affects one of them. Your private keys are not stored on the affected chip. In other words, your backup is not stored on it, your PIN code is not stored on it, so even in the worst case, the attacker still cannot access your funds. And one of the best things here is that Trezor has been very open and very direct about this finding. They published a full disclosure directly about it, explaining exactly what the vulnerability is, what they can and cannot do, and what they're doing about it. And the chip level vulnerability cannot be patched itself via firmware updates, so the Tropic Square is making a new batch of chips that fixes it. But for the wallets that are already out there, like the one I have in my hand here, we don't really need to do anything. And this entire story about finding this exploit actually only increases my trust in Trezor, that they are so vocal and open about it and discloses every kind of vulnerability found by competitors and collaborate with them. This is on another level of transparency that nobody else in the industry does, so that means a lot to me. So overall, the Trezor wallets are a perfect wallet for you that really dig open source and verifiability. Alright, let me know in the comments what you think about Trezor, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.